Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, it's the Joe Cortez Show.
Hello, welcome to the Joe Cortez Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment and the sports capital of the world, and so many other things. First of all, welcome again my co-host Shelly Stevens, and we have a special guest today by the name of Brittany Allen. Brittany Allen is the Domestic Abuse Program. She's the founder and executive director for the community, actually it's called the Allen Community Bloom. Yeah. Okay? Project.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this now, Brittany?
I've been doing this probably for like the last year.
Yeah.
But domestic violence is something that's really close to my heart because I have my own personal story.
Okay. So when did you get started with this? A year ago?
About a year ago.
A year ago. Okay. So you've seen a lot about, you see what's happening around the world, not only here in Las Vegas, but all over the world, domestic abuse.
Yes.
And it's a lot of people don't do nothing about it. They're either afraid or they're afraid if they open up their mouth, the other half's gonna, who's ever abusing them, gonna make it even worse for them.
Definitely, majorly so.
And they have a place, they got a place to live. They're afraid, if I leave here, where am I gonna go? And so there's a lot of things that go on that I know that people are suffering a lot these days.
Yes.
What can you tell us about some of the history that you've experienced?
Well, to start with where the Allen Community Bloom Project actually comes from, like I said, it's my own personal story. So I am a domestic abuse survivor. I suffered from domestic abuse for about 7 years at the hands of my youngest two children's father. It's dear to me only because I know how it feels for a voice to be silenced, to be overlooked, and even forgotten. Not just on a personal level, but also through the justice system as well. Because as much as the justice system, they try to encourage you to take certain steps and do certain things and leave a paper trail, but sometimes there's always a technicality or a reason why they just can never always fully follow through. Unfortunately, that is my story. That's not everybody's story, but it's a majority of the population's story. It is unfortunate, though, however. So that's kind of where the Allen Community Bloom Project started. We feel like every voice matters. Everybody deserves to bloom and be seen, and has I always tell people we plant seeds, and sometimes they can grow as weeds or they can grow into beautiful blossoming flowers, right? And so like I tell anyone that comes through us for case management services to know that we are here to help you find your beautiful inner self. You don't have to be your tragedy. You don't have to be your story. It's unfortunate that the world or the community, let you down in some way, but there's a way to move past that and just to move forward in a better light.
I can totally relate to what you're saying. I myself am a survivor of domestic abuse. My first husband, he was a doctor. I was a flight attendant, and he would physically abuse me all the time. And when I would call the police used to tell me, go back inside and make up. He's a doctor, you're just a flight attendant, y'all will be okay. And I just totally lost it. I had a daughter, and it was just very hard. Like you said, it was hard to get out of there, but thank God, for my current husband who I met when that was going on, and he helped me survive through music, because he was a musician and a songwriter, Grammy Award nominated producer and everything. And somehow or another I met him when I went out for dinner with a friend of mine, and he was playing the piano, and he came over and talked to us on his break because he knew my girlfriend. And anyway, we got to be friends, and he invited me to come up and sing with him. And I did. And somebody heard us, and they wanted to hire us to work in their club. And I'm like, no, I don't do this for a living. I'm a flight attendant, but, it's cool. But anyway, after, I finally got divorced from my first husband, and then we started dating. And I was still flying for a while, and one day he said, don't go to work today. He goes, because I was based in New York, commuted from Philly. He says, don't go to work today. He goes, stay home. Let's learn some songs. Take the guy up on his offer to sing together. And I'm like, oh, no, I love my job. I love traveling the world, but, and I thought about it. I said, okay, you're right. Let's do it. Let's go for it. But then that was the day I was supposed to be on the Pan Am flight that blew up in the sky. So basically, my husband saved my life in more ways than one. And that's why we've been together ever since doing music. So I'm glad you're here with us today.
Awesome.
We need to spread the word. People can get help.
Yes, you can get help. I feel like we can't, but you can. They say that it takes at least at the minimum 7 to 9 occurrences before someone actually truly decides to leave and actually, take the step to, move forward. For me, it was almost being suffocated by a leather pillow. Okay, that was like my end all be all. Like, this is just not how my life is supposed to be. When you can look into somebody's eyes and see nothing but blackness and void, and just see emptiness in them, and know like there's just like no soul there. And I was like, this is just not going to be me. This person's telling me that I'm going to be left lifeless upstairs. That and things like that. Those are the things. And it took me about a month though to file a police report. I will say that, because you fight with whether or not you're going to go back, and I fought with that because I was like, God, please, please, please give me the strength to say no and to not put myself or my children, in that. And I had stepkids too, so, and it took me about 30 days, and then I went to go file a police report. I filed that police report, but let's just say it didn't really go nowhere. The officer basically, I got a phone call from the father of my kids, I think about 30 days later, talking about, the officer threw it out. He didn't believe you. And I'm like, well, I had a whole gash on my back and everything, still healing. But it's unfortunate, I say, but that's, again, why we're here. I'm not the only foundation, and that's doing these things, but it's one of those topics that really gets overlooked, and I feel like it doesn't get a lot of insight and light that should be shed on it, because we are losing people every day from crimes of passion, quote unquote, if that's what they want to call them, because I didn't mean to do it, but you did it. And it's just like there's just no excuse at this point. But in the meantime, my biggest thing is that even not just being a voice, it's also just taking care of those victims and their families, and things like that. So if there's resources that they need, if they need clothing, because I know how it feels to leave without anything. I left everything, I had to also make the decision to say, I'm going to sacrifice my condo. I had 3 cars, bank accounts, all those things. I had to make a sacrifice for my well-being so I could also be there for my children in the long run, So that's what we do. So we basically just make sure, like, if there's toiletries, if their kids need diapers or wipes or things like that, even with our shelters, because they're also lacking in necessity and provisions, especially for our minority population of our brown and black communities. So it's just providing those services to them, and also providing therapeutic outlet and services to them as well. So things like we're going to start hosting more self-defense classes throughout the year. I'm going to be hosting a 5K walk and run challenge starting in July. There's just so many different things. I was talking with the Safe House of Nevada, their case management team, and shout out to Tiffany. She's their case management manager.
Okay, now if somebody wants to reach you, what number can they reach you for help?
If you guys want to reach me directly for help, and you can contact me at any time, it's going to be 702-204-2099.
Okay, and the hotline number for in case of domestic abuse, they want to call somebody right away. What's the hotline number?
The hotline you're going to want to call is 702-646-4981.
Okay.
And that's locally. But that's locally here. There is a 1-800 number. It's usually, and actually you can call, I want to say it's 988, but that's the number that you can reach for any type of crisis that you're going through. And then they'll get you directed to wherever you need to go.
But the real emergency one is 911, right?
Yeah, 911. At the end of the day, if you feel like your safety is at risk, please call 911. Do never be afraid to call 911. No matter what the system says, please call them, no matter what somebody else says. Because I also get told, oh, you're a cop caller. Why you call the police on me? Oh, well, your life matters. Okay, so you're still a civilian. Because what can happen in a split of a second is that you could potentially lose your life.
And how about the abuse of the children? Let's say a father or the mother start beating on the kids so bad. I mean, with a broomstick or with a baseball bat, anything, even a gun.
Yeah, see, we have it like recently, these families, and it's not just, I always tell people, it's not just a woman thing. Men get abused too, but we know that women account for the highest statistic of domestic violence and abuse, right? So you have these individuals, these perpetrators that will actually, they'll hurt the whole family. They'll unfortunately expire and kill the whole family.
Do you say a lot of it's got to do with drinking and drugs?
I think that it can be a combination of factors. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes people just suffer from real mental illness, or they take their previous traumas, whether it's from their childhood or whatever the case may be, and they bring it to their to their adulthood, and then they take it out on everyone else.
Yeah, so there's a program for men's health, men's mental health program for women as well, but there's a program for men's mental health. Men are really out of control.
Yes.
They need some guidance. They need a psychiatrist to deal with them. They need somebody to really talk to them, get them on the right track. I think so much of this happening even with kids that have bad tempers. The way they're being brought up at home. But they copy for what they see. They say
they do.
The fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Yes.
And that's the truth. Sometimes the parents are so wild that the kids pick up on it, the kids turn out to be.
And I think that's one thing with parents, especially as adults in general, they fail to realize, and I've said this from my own personal account, is that you have to be mindful of what your children see.
Exactly.
Even though they know right from wrong, they know it's not right.
Right.
But as they get older, because it's something that they have experienced, they know that that's not how they're supposed to handle a situation.
Yeah.
But because that's how they saw and what they were taught in relation to handle a situation, we'll just give it 8 times out of 10, that's probably how they're going to resolve the situation. Or even with young girls, because they saw their fathers, how they treated women, right, or mistreated them and were physical with them. They know that that's not right. A man should never be putting his hands on you for any reason. But then she might grow up and thinking that that's what love is, unfortunately, and we know that that's not the case, but it is there's all these misconceptions and misnomers out there. But, and like I said, for me, domestic violence, how I came about it was crazily indirectly through my aunt and my uncle. That's how it was. But I was with them all the time as a child. I knew it was wrong. I knew it wasn't right. But then you're just like, oh, okay, you did this. Well, let's just kind of let it be, maybe we can do something better, you'll change. But people, you can't change nobody.
Supposing somebody wants to call you, but they don't speak the language, they're Spanish speaking or any other language, can they reach out at a different number or the same number?
They can reach out the same number. I have a way for anyone that is, if there is a language barrier, I do have bilingual advocates that work in connection with
so
me.
when they call a number, it'll say, you want to speak in Spanish, you want to speak with Spanish, you can press number 1. Or if you want to speak English, number 2.
Yeah, so right now we're building our hotline to be able to do all those things because people don't realize it takes a lot to actually build actual hotline because it's more like a call center thing. But in the meantime, all they just have to say, if we know that they speak Spanish, they can speak Arabic, they can speak Mandarin for all we care. They just need to let us know and we'll get translation involved.
I want to say something in Spanish to our viewers. Si hablan en español, necesitan ayuda de abuso en la casa, tiene el teléfono que pueden llamar al 702-204-2099. Es el número para llamar para ayuda si le tiene abuso en su casa. Y ellos están ahí para ayudarle cualquier en inglés o en español o cualquier otro lenguaje. Muchas gracias. Okay, now you can continue with your program. As far as what you do, you've been doing this for a year, you say now. How many people have you been able to get on the right track? Do you keep any track of any numbers of individuals you've been helping?
For the past year, because the starting stages was more so networking, right? Networking, getting into our community, making relationships with our community partners. That was like the biggest thing for like at least the first 6 to 7 months. So the last 6 months or so has been basically connecting with those resources, dealing with tapping into their case management, and providing resources and outreach for them specifically. So our case management is more so indirect right now. People, yes, they contact us, but then we provide them the resources that they need. So if they need help with transitional housing or just housing in general, then we know who to contact to get them
Clothing
there.
and for food.
Clothing, food, outside of what we already offer too. Because I do offer clothing, I do offer hygiene products, I do offer all that good stuff to them as well. But if there's anything extra they need, if they need transportation services, that's also a big thing too. How do I get away? How do, and things like that. I need to be able to get to the safe house, right? I need to or at least get to a safe place wherever that may be. And so ordering an Uber or ordering a Lyft and things like that. So our next project too for the Allen Community Bloom Project probably for the next 2 years that we're going to be focusing on as we're pulling in these grants, is working on a transportation system called Get Out. It's our GO system. And it's basically where we're going to have armed serviced guards that will be going out and, picking them up and transporting them to safe places. Because sometimes you're never really sure how safe a situation really is, especially because, yes, people are, they're quick to react because they see someone leaving. So then but they're not paying attention to their whole environment. Yes, they're focused, laser focused on the one individual, which is this victim, who are trying to keep safe and survive this whole situation. But they fail to realize that there may be children, there may be other civilians around, and the last thing we need is everyone getting hurt, right? So we want to make sure that they have safety in all levels to be able to get safe transport.
There's a lot of lives that are in danger because of what's going on. So the hotline number, again, can you repeat that number again?
The hotline number is 702-646-4981.
Good. Now, you've been doing this for, you say, a year. Are you getting any assistance from anybody, or somebody wants to help you with your program? What's the best number or website they can go to?
If you need to reach out to us, you can always reach out to us directly by phone, 702-204-2099. You can always contact us on our website as well, at www.communitybloomproject.org. There you can also get a list of our information, current things that we're doing, initiatives we're raising money for right now, because we do accept physical donations and monetary.
Have you been doing anything with City Hall, with the mayor's office?
Right now, I am in connection with a couple of our judges locally. So right now, it's in the works. It takes time.
Yeah, a family court judge.
Yeah, so it's just taking time. So because you gotta catch them, especially because right now we just had early voting and things like that. So you just got to catch them at the right moment when they can kind of help speak about your initiatives.
Well, they got to help you now. Now. They want you to vote for them right away.
Right.
But we need help from them as well.
Right. We need you to step in and speak up, because these cases are going to come across their desk, their chamber, right? And they're going to have to look at them. They're going to have to listen to them because, unfortunately, like I said, I was talking with one of the case managers at Safe House, and we were talking about how when you go in these courtrooms, sometimes it's amazing what you hear from these judges. Sometimes they'll look you dead in your face and say, "I just don't believe you." And it's unfortunate, right? So that's the one thing that we're trying to stop. Is that, or the fact that a victim just didn't decide to show up to court that day for that final disposition, because who really wants to keep having to relive something that's fresh and new of that person? So let's say they attempted to take their life, and they're just like, I got to really sit here. Y'all want me to face this person? But then they don't show up because in their mind, they're just like, if I just let it go and not have to think about it anymore, it's going to go away. But they also don't realize that they're pacifying that individual. They're also pacifying the system and allowing them to still get away and be placed back into society.
I had a friend named Judge Nellie Terrell. Judge Nellie Terrell was with the family court here in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas. And she had me one day go to the courthouse to talk. It was mandatory that the kids are in trouble and their parents had to be at the courtroom. And I was there to able to talk to them about my upbringing, how I grew up in Spanish Harlem in New York, and how I kept myself on the right track. And these kids were big problems.
Yeah.
Either not going to school or doing drugs, belong to gangs, and things like that. So it was mandatory that they attend this seminar that we gave one day. And we also had 4 prisoners behind me in shackles for them, and they also spoke to these kids about the do's and don'ts in life. There's a lot of programs out there that are needed for these kids, but also for adults as well.
Yes. I feel like right now I know Nevada has programs that help with perpetrators of domestic violence, so abusers, to try to get them proper counseling. So it is specific to domestic abuse. But a lot of times we have to be mindful that these abusers don't believe that they're abusers. They just don't. If you look it up on the federal National Attorney General's website, the first thing it says is that an abuser is always going to deny that they are an abuser. That is the first characteristic of an abuser. And it's unfortunate that they refuse to look in the mirror. And it's okay to be like, I know I have a problem. Unfortunately, I do not know how to properly, go about resolving issues without having to get physical and or hostile or violent, and also people get scared to seek help too. So it's like, I know I have this issue, but then I'm afraid to ask for help. I know this isn't right. I shouldn't be putting my hands on anyone. I shouldn't have to feel like it has to go from 0 to 1,000 like that, because at the end of the day, you really don't know what the end result can be. Whether somebody gets just barely injured, placed in the hospital, or they actually end up losing their lives, and then you have to deal with the actual consequences, with those actions.
Exactly. And a lot of things happen, like in my case, before my first husband, he grew up watching abuse between his mother and father, and I guess it just carries on down sometimes. And I think my breaking point was when I think I had gone back to flying. I was on a trip, and then when I came home, and my husband had somehow, because him and his family were like kind of connected in Philly, and they had connections to people who could, fast track them through something. Anyway, he got custody of my child, and that broke me to my soul. And I was in the supermarket one day, and I was walking down like the baby food aisle and the diapers, and I just had a breakdown, and I just sat down on the floor in the supermarket, and I just started crying, and then people would come over, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay, but I'm going to be okay. And then, like I said, thank God for my husband right now, because he pulled me out of all of that, so. Yeah, if there's any way I can ever help you, assist you with anything you need, volunteers, I would be so willing to come and help you. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Shelly. Yes, and that's one thing we're also looking for too. Is we're always looking for volunteers, anyone to come out and help, whether it's to put together care packages, put together clothing packages. Because again, like I said, I know how it feels to go without and not have once you finally decide to leave. I had nothing, no money, no anything. I left everything. I didn't want nothing. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because you really have to start over. And mind you, at that time, I have my kids were younger, and I definitely had a newborn baby, top of a 1-year-old and then a 9-year-old. So it was heavy. It was heavy, and it wasn't for my mother and my aunt, who are now recently passed. But if it wasn't for them, I probably would not have made it out of that situation.
What's the life with that man now?
Say that again.
Your ex-husband, what's the life of him now?
He's still doing the same thing.
Oh, wow.
He recently had a case that was dismissed because the woman that he's recently been seeing, she didn't show up. But it's not uncommon. I'm not afraid to tell the stories. I'm not afraid of what anybody's going to say, the backlash or anything like that, because I know what it feels like. I know when friends and family, especially of the perpetrator, come to you and be like, oh, well, what could you have really done better? Or we know he's like that, but, and I'm like, well, there should be no but. There's no but. You know that they're like that. Either you need to distance yourself to show them that there's no support in this, or really just let them know, like, there are real consequences to these things. We're always going to love you, but we just cannot accept this. There's kids involved, especially when there's kids involved. It's like kids, whether they take it on mentally or emotionally, but definitely if they witness it, come on. We have to be accountable for our actions. Like I tell everybody, I'm accountable for knowing that I allowed someone to take a big chunk of myself, to stopped me from loving myself how I needed to love myself properly.
So there was no butt in you.
No, there's no but.
The only butt was kicking his butt.
Right. Now, I will say I did fight back. I did fight back. But, you know, I did get lost in just like this, thinking that this is the only life that I was going to continue having, you know, because they do that to you. They make you feel, they remove all your friends from you. You really can't even go see your own family anymore. You know, and it's just crazy, you know, how it's easily manipulated and conditioned. You can be.
How about sometimes these individuals, they carry weapons, and they're not legal to carry them because they're not licensed, but some of them carry weapons, and that's one of the reasons why also that they get not only being abused physically, but they also abused with threats of, you know what, I'm going to shoot you.
And I've been there.
You've been there?
I've been there. I've probably had a gun held to my face at least 6 times.
Really?
6 times.
Oh, boy. With that same guy?
Same guy, and crazily, as a felon, he's not allowed to carry any type of weapon of the sort. But yeah, I had about 6 times. Even with my daughter on my lap.
So he's a felon now?
He's considered a felon.
Yeah.
Due to others, there was a past situation that I guess he swears he never knew of, but they're like, no, you're a felon, so you should not be brandishing a gun by any means.
You can't brandish a gun, you can't vote.
And then, mind you, I also have a permanent protection order. So whenever there's a permanent protection order in place, you're not allowed to brandish a weapon anyway. Exactly. It's against federal law.
Exactly. Unbelievable. Well, I tell you, you know, Brittany, you've gone through hell and back. But I'm glad you're back on your feet again with your children.
Yeah.
Now, you had a 19-year-old at the time, and you had a 1-year-old at the time. And now they must be growing up now. How old are the children now?
Well, not 19. She's about to be 16. So I have 16, 8, and 7. I always, because there's that big gap. So I'm like, how old are they?
Do they understand what you've gone through, what you went through?
Yes. Yes. And I, especially with my oldest daughter, Cha-Cha, I feel for her because I feel like she feels like she's had to protect me. Not in the ways that people think, you know, but, you know, she sees me crying. She sees me upset. She just to have to run to your mother because, you know, or, you know, to say, are you okay?
Did she make contact with her father?
Well, he's not her father. So, and her dad he's not free of it either, you know, because I had a situation with him too, and she actually witnessed it when she was like 4 years old. So where he tried to smash my head open on the ground. So it's a lot, you know what I'm saying? Her thing, you know, with my youngest 2 kids' father is that because they get 2 versions, right? She, especially her, because she was older. So the babies, they only know what they know, you know, thankfully. But with my oldest daughter, she's got 2 versions. She got the man that helped raise her and was considered a dad to her. And I'll give it to him. Like, he took care of her. He made sure she was okay. But she also got the version that wasn't so nice, right? Not so much nice to her because it wasn't the kids. It's always the adults or the women that he was involved with. But, you know, she witnessed that. You know what I'm saying? She saw what that aggression looked like. She saw what that mistreatment looked like, the disrespect looked like. So, but yeah, so, and I know it's taking a burden on her, especially because my daughter actually has sickle cell disease. So she already stresses out enough. So to add that extra stress on her during that time, you know, I know it wasn't fair.
You know, me growing up, I grew up with a single parent. My mother raised 4 boys by herself. And I never had the love of a father. So I grew up without knowing what it feels to have a father taking you to the ball game, taking you to the movies, or just taking you out for a ride. I don't recall none of that. And that's bad because, and I turn out to be one of the nicest dads in the world because I have a daughter, as you well know, Sandy is a quadriplegic from an older accent. I got my daughter Sandy, my daughter Christine. You know, and they have nothing bad to say about Daddy because they all call me Daddy all the time. They don't call me Joe, and they all call me Daddy. It was just because, you know, I am the way I am. I love them. I don't cuss in my house. I don't have a temper. You've been in my house many times. You take care of my daughter. You see her in her cares in the morning or evening. And I always try to do the best I can to keep everybody happy. And you viewers out there watching, this is why I brought Brittany Allen on the show today, because I felt she brings a lot of information that's so informative to help you guys get on the right track. Si necesitan ayuda, llamen al 702-204-2099. Again, if you need some help, call 702-204-2099 for help, and Brittany Allen and her staff will be there to help you, whether English, Spanish, whatever. She's working on a good project to get it done and to get everybody back on their feet. We wish you the very best, and thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you.
It's truly
Shelly,
a pleasure.
thank you. And remember, I'm fair, but I'm firm, and so are you. And keep your guards open all the time. Take care. See you next week.
Live from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, it's the Joe Cortez Show.